They called it the proudest house in Moscow. Pashkov was a man whose word was law within his domain. Her beauty was as dazzling and as inaccessible as the spire atop their home. Everything changed when he entered their world. Not an architect or a tutor, but a restorer. Hired to renew the frescoes in the private chapel, he was young, quiet, with eyes full of worlds unknown to Pashkov. He saw beauty not in gold leaf, but in the cracks of old plaster, in the play of light on worn marble. They met secretly in the library, which smelled of old books and dust. Their whispered conversations felt like the only living thing in that frozen palace of grandeur. Pashkov found out, not from an informant, but he felt it, like a draft in a perfectly sealed room. He did not shout. He gave an order. Anna was imprisoned in her second-floor apartments, whose windows faced only the blank wall of a neighboring wing. She was told, forget. She did not forget. They found a way to exchange letters. Notes hidden in the hollow of an old elm deep in the garden. His final one read, tomorrow, under the full moon, I will find you. Be on the balcony. The balcony, the very one from which all Moscow could be seen. The symbol of her father's power. She chose it as her point of escape, a cruel paradox. That night, the full moon bathed the city in a dead, white light. Anna, clad in a wedding dress she had secretly sewn from her mother's old trousseau, stepped onto the cold stone of the balcony. Not shadows, but men, her father's silent servants, their faces like stone. She heard footsteps behind her, turned with a smile, and saw her father's shape in the doorway. His eyes were empty. He did not speak a word. He simply nodded. They seized her. A velvet glove, smelling of tobacco and wrath, stifled her cry. No scream, only the rustle of silk against stone. There, in a blind wall destined for a storeroom, a fresh, shallow niche gaped open. A barrel of mortar and bricks stood ready. She fought without a sound, her eyes filled with mute terror. They shoved her into the cold, stone pocket. The last thing she saw before the bricks began to rise before her face was the back of her father, walking away. He never looked back. The trowel slapped. The bricks were laid with a dreadful, methodical speed. The light narrowed, became a slit, a line, a point, and went out. Utter darkness fell, and silence, broken only by her own ragged, gasping breath and the final thuds of brick against brick from outside. She did not die at once. That was the most terrible part of the legend, whispered by the servants. She lived in there, in the dark, behind the wall. First, there were screams, then moans, then scratching, faint, like the scuttling of a mouse, then silence. But sometimes, on the stillest nights, especially under a full moon, a barely audible whisper could be heard from within the wall. Not words. A sound. The sound of a final breath, trapped in stone forever. The house was sold, rebuilt. It became a museum, then a library. But she remained. Her spirit never left. Since then, she has been seen. Not as a beautiful maiden, but as a pale figure in a tattered white dress, standing on the balcony. His hand reaches out to mine, and in that moment, our souls, separated by centuries and walls, finally unite. On the balcony of the Pashkov house, where our tragedy began, now lives our eternal, ghostly love. The walls here no longer breathe my solitude, but whisper of two hearts that found each other beyond the grave.